Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survival Review, and today we'll be talking about one of my most anticipated movies of the year, the new James Bond movie, SPECTRE. Now, I'm a huge James Bond fan. It's pretty obvious. The last 4 videos I did were all James Bond related, and I've been really looking forward to this one, mostly because it's the follow-up to Skyfall, which was such an amazing movie, and this has the same director as Skyfall, Sam Mendes. So it has all the right ingredients, and for the most part, it's a solid movie. Honestly, it's not as great as Skyfall. It's not one of the best Bond movies. It's not up there with Casino Royale and Skyfall, but it's not nearly as bad as Quantum of Solace. It's just a really solid and entertaining Bond film. So the movie is about James Bond's investigation into the mysterious SPECTRE organization and how it somehow ties back to his past. And while this is going on, back at MI6, the 00 program is slowly being phased out in favor of this new drone system that's coming into play. And Bond slowly finds out that SPECTRE is run by Franz Oberhauser, and he has to stop it. So what's good about this movie is that it plays out more like a classic Bond film. You know how Skyfall still had that Daniel Craig seriousness, but mixed it in with some classic elements? This one's more of a full-on Bond movie, and that's not a problem. It's a lot of fun. There's even some silly moments in there that felt a little strange for the Daniel Craig era, but they were welcomed. They didn't get as bad as Roger Moore cheesy moments, but they were just nice little silly Bond moments that I was okay with. And speaking of Daniel Craig, his performance is great. He's having a lot more fun in the role, and he's still killing it as the part. For one, I love Daniel Craig as Bond. He's not the best Bond, but I love him as the part, and I still think he's doing a great job. Christoph Waltz as the villain Oberhauser is phenomenal. I mean, it was to be expected that he was going to nail it, but he really does. He's really great. The only problem is he doesn't have a whole lot of screen time. He's in it a little bit in the middle, and then he doesn't appear all the way till the end, which is really disappointing because he's so great. It's like, oh, why can't you just have him in the whole movie? But for the scenes he's in, he kills it. His first scene, which is the SPECTRE meeting, you see it in the trailer, where his face is all in shadow. That scene is amazing. It's probably the best scene in the movie. And it just shows how great he is as the head of this organization. And it's a classic SPECTRE. Like how in the old Connery films they would have the SPECTRE meetings, where you'd have Blofeld there, and then you'd have all the members. It plays out like that, except it's more sinister and more serious. So it's just even better. It's great. It's a great scene. And there is a reveal with Oberhauser near the end that ties him in with James Bond a bit that I was not a fan of. I just thought it was an unnecessary addition, and the movie would have been fine without it. But the rest of the cast is really good. I love how this movie gives Q and M more screen time. It gives them a lot more to do. Because Skyfall introduced us to these new interpretations of these great characters with Q and then the new M. And they were awesome. So in this movie you get to see him do a lot more. And that's also very unique for a Bond movie. Because M and Q never really got heavily involved in the other Bond films. And Q is awesome. And he looks a lot like Sam too. Just look at him. That looks just like Sam. Anyway, he's great, and I love him having more screen time. His chemistry with Daniel Craig is great, and some of the funniest moments of the movie. And then Ralph Fiennes as M. This movie just shows that he is a great replacement for Judi Dench. He is great, and I love him as the part. And I thought going into this movie that M was just going to be how he normally is in the Bond films, just sitting at the desk, getting orders, and appears maybe in a few scenes throughout the movie. But he's heavily involved in the subplot with that new program taking over for the 00s, and he's heavily involved in that. So he's great. The Bond girl is really great. I can't think of her name right now. Her character, though, is Madeline Swan, and she's an awesome Bond girl, another very strong, badass Bond girl. Though her relationship with Daniel Craig is a little rushed, especially near the end. I wasn't expecting to go the route it did, because it didn't develop it that way, so when that came out, I was just kind of like, oh, they're doing that. Okay. Dave Bautista as Hinks, the henchman character, was awesome. I loved seeing this classic style Bond henchman, just this big guy who doesn't talk the whole movie, and he's just going after Bond, and I love that. But there's one problem with that. Like Waltz's character, he doesn't have that much screen time. And where it made sense for Waltz's character to not have as much screen time, because I see what they were doing with it, they were building him up. This guy, he should have been in it a lot more than he was. But his fight scene with Daniel Craig on the train, best fight scene in the movie. That scene is awesome. A lot of the action scenes are really good, though they're not as standout as they should be. The only real standout scene is the pre-credit sequence, which has this awesome fight in this helicopter that is just so sick. But aside from that, there's not as many very standout action scenes. It's all good, but nothing amazing. I like how this movie ties back in with the previous Daniel Craig movies. It ties them all together, which is really cool. I like that these movies have this continuity to them. And they do even acknowledge Quantum of Solace a little bit, not as much, which I found really funny. Even they know the movie's not that great because they briefly mention it, but there's a lot of references to Ashif and Vesper from Casino Royale and Silva and Judi Dench's M from Skyfall. There's a lot of mention of those characters, and I like just tying it together and showing that like Spectre was there from the beginning. It just makes Spectre feel like this big deal, and I love that they're bringing back Spectre to the series because Spectre is this really cool element of the old films, and they make him even more involved in this one, and that makes it really cool. I like that they're connecting it as a continuity, and it makes all four movies go together actually pretty well, which is really unique for the Bond series to have this continuity between them. I like how even the character Mr. White ties into the film. For those of you who don't know, he was in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. He was the guy that Bond shoots in the leg in the beginning of Casino Royale, and you see him at the beginning of Quantum of Solace. And he has a role in the movie, not a big role, and then his daughter is the main Bond girl. And I like that. I love that connection. I just think it's really cool. And I liked seeing him again, and I loved his scene with Bond. Some of the other problems, though, is that the pacing is off a little bit at times. Sometimes it goes a little slow. At the beginning, I thought it was going a little slow, and then it picked up as it kept going. And the twists and turns are really predictable. Like, I'm terrible at predicting stuff. There's so many movies I've watched where everybody just goes like, oh yeah, I predicted that part right away. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But I predicted like every twist and turn in this movie right away. It was really obvious, so that sucks. And the whole subplot with that new program being taken over, the 00s at MI6, wasn't totally necessary. There's only really one reason for it. I can't get into that for spoilers. But aside from that, that subplot really had no point in the movie. So overall, I really enjoyed the movie, despite its flaws. Yeah, it's not as great as Casino Royale or Skyfall, but those set the bar so high that it was hard to be that good, and I'm glad we got a solid movie, and not a disappointment like Quantum of Solace. You know, I'm so happy we got a good Bond film out of it, even though it's not up to the standards as its predecessor. And even though the trailers for this movie were really dark and serious, like that first teaser was really dark. And it's actually not. It has its light moments. Yeah, it has dark moments and serious moments, but it's not as serious as the previous films were. And I like that. I kind of like that change of pace and just made it a bit more fun. So out of 10, I'm going to give the movie a solid 8 out of 10. So that's Spectre. Again, solid movie. Not perfect, but really entertaining Bond film. And that's about it for now. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.